Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Teresa McKelvey, and today we'll be at the home of Scott and Jill Harris, who live on the beautiful Lake Martin here in Alabama. Scott was kind enough to speak with us about his hobby, growing bonsai trees, and showing us around his Japanese-inspired tranquil garden. Scott started with one tree, 2 sawhorses, and a wood pallet. Now, 4 years later, he has had at one point over 90 trees and has created a beautiful, peaceful garden. Grab your current crochet project or your favorite drink, and let's learn all about Scott's hobby. Scott, thank you so much for inviting us out here today.
Oh, you're most welcome, and welcome to our home and our garden.
Oh, it's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I've been raised in Montgomery and here on the weekends. Grew up that way. I was fortunate enough to keep the place after my parents passed. Just love it here on the lake, and over the years things have just evolved. I was an industrial engineer for over 30 years, I guess, and then the Lord called me to become a nurse. So I tell people, if you don't think God's got a sense of humor, I was 54 years old and he put me back in school.
Wow, yeah.
So I've been a nurse now for going on 10 years, and love it. Wish I had been doing that the whole time.
Right. And I know you're married to our lovely cousin Jill.
I am.
And how long
Second
have
best
you guys
thing's ever
been
happened
married?
to me. 17 years now.
17 years. Wow, that's
This
great.
past May.
That's great. Well, I'm so excited to talk about your garden. So first, why don't you tell us what's the name of your garden?
The name of it is Shesakiza Niwa.
Now, I lived in Japan, but I cannot pronounce that myself.
Basically, it means tranquil garden.
Tranquil garden. Oh, that's gorgeous. And I'm assuming that you came up with that name because this is a very tranquil place for you.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. I went through Google Translate to translate into Japanese what tranquil garden was, and that's what it came up to be.
Oh, that's great. Has this been your place of refuge during COVID in 2020?
Absolutely.
And I would think so. As a nurse, that had to be extremely stressful.
Yes, I would come home from work, and this is my sanctuary where I'd unwind. It's, again, tranquil, peaceful, and I can just let the day wash away.
Right. How did all this begin? How did this start?
Well, I've always enjoyed growing things, plants, flowers, things like that. But every year at springtime, as the spring fever, so to speak, would hit, I would usually go out and buy a little bonsai tree from one of the local box stores and bring it home, try to do with it what you do when you bonsai. And it would die, and I would get frustrated and throw it in the trash can and
feel that.
then quit.
I feel that, right?
So after many years of doing that, one year the same thing, it hit again about 4 years ago, and went out, got something, brought it home, and it lived. It's like, oh my goodness, it lived. So now what do I do with it? Not knowing that much about bonsai, and not liking to read a lot, I went on YouTube and found some guys that were amateurs, some guys that were professional, and just started watching YouTube videos and learned, and from that started getting into it that way, never realizing how in-depth bonsai can be and how you can make it as difficult or easy as you want.
Sounds
depending
like
on how
crochet.
far you want to go with it.
Yeah, sounds like crochet.
Yes,
exactly. I went to YouTube and I thought, oh, I'm just going to learn a little. Now I'm like doing all these intricate things. So it's. So would you say this is your passion then? Something?
Absolutely. I've been doing this now for just 4 years, or this is the 4th growing season, and each year it just becomes more deeply rooted and seated than the year before.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Thank goodness for Jill, who keeps me reeled in. Otherwise, the whole yard would be full of bonsai trees.
Jeff understands.
She gave me this
that.
area, and I have made do with the area that she's allowed me to have.
You're doing better than me. He gave me a craft room, but my yarn is everywhere. So, well, it's so beautiful and so tranquil.
Well,
I can understand why it would be a very restful place. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about bonsai itself. Can you explain what bonsai is?
Bonsai, first of all, it's pronounced bonsai.
Bonsai.
A lot of people say bonsai or bonsai with a Z, but it's bonsai. It's 2 words, and bon means tray, sai means planting or plant. So basically, it's a plant in a tray or a tree in a pot is the other translation of it.
What is the lifespan usually of, I'm not going to say it anymore because I know I'll say it wrong.
No, that's fine.
But what is the lifespan of the trees?
Depends on the tree itself. Just like in nature, trees live their normal lifespan. Some live longer, some live shorter. Most trees will live 60, 70 years on up to over 1,000.
Wow.
A lot of your junipers and pines, they've been around for thousands of years.
Now, if a lot of people are like me, my first introduction to bonsai tree was the Karate Kid.
Exactly.
And so I really thought that tree shaped like that was bonsai. But I've come to understand it's kind of the art of how you take care of the tree.
Exactly.
Is what it actually is.
Bonsai is an art. It's an art form. Being with plants and trees makes it a living art form, meaning it's always dynamic. It's never static. It's always changing. And it's the art of keeping what is full size in nature miniature with certain techniques and so forth.
What type of trees have you noticed, or what all type of trees are you working with?
Oh, I have pines, I have junipers, I have crepe myrtles, oaks, dogwoods, gardenias.
Wow, you have quite the variety.
Boxwoods. I even have a rose bush that I'm experimenting with to see what.
Which so far has been your favorite to kind of work with?
I have 2 azaleas that I really enjoy working with that have developed very quickly, and I really enjoy them. They do flower. Don't really have a favorite per se.
Yeah.
Because each one is unique in its own way. It's like having children.
Yeah.
You love them all. They each have their own personality, their own likes and dislikes. My trees are the same way. Once you get to know them, they speak to you. They tell you what they like and what they don't like
Now,
by what you do to them. I do not.
You do not?
I do
man,
not.
I had the image of you out here talking to yourself, and no.
No, not like that. I don't know if, some people say they do respond to voice or music or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll pray for them every once in a while if they're not doing good, but that's it.
Do you have certain pruning techniques that you have had to learn and
Yes.
learn? How did you learn those?
YouTube.
YouTube. Love YouTube.
There's after filtering through hundreds of different people and channels in YouTube, I have narrowed it down to 4 or 5 people that I actually follow on YouTube that really know what they're doing.
Right.
Some are professional, some are amateur, just hobbyists like myself, but have been doing it for 20, 30 years.
Right.
And I have learned a lot through the horticultural aspect of it. You learn different techniques and things that you can do to create a response from the tree that you want. Where you trim, how you trim, when you trim is like that. When you transplant, when you fertilize, what you fertilize with. All of that does, it creates, you're manipulating nature is what you're doing. nature is still nature. It's still going to do what it's going to do, but you can kind of tweak it here and there a little bit to suit what you're trying to do.
Right.
I do kind of let the tree tell me what it wants to do, and then I design shapes and styles from that.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of nature, I know you're located here on beautiful Lake Martin. Do you have a lot of deer? I mean, how do you deal with the animals?
Yes, we do, and I'm not able to.
Yeah. I noticed you have kind of a
I do have a
fence
little fencing put
yeah.
up. It's actually nylon cord. It's not barbed wire or anything.
Right.
But that seems to keep them out for the most part.
That's great.
But I have, I don't know, 7 or 8 other bonsai trees up here on my deck. That the reason they're up there is because deer or rabbit or squirrel or something gets in and will prune it
Have a
back
feast.
for me. Yes.
Yeah. Now, I know you told me this gate has a special name. What is this called?
It's a Torii gate, Toree, Torii.
O-R-E.
And you see them mainly in Japan as you're going into gardens or their religious areas, things like that. Just, I like the way it looks, so
yeah. Well, it is
I
beautiful.
built it.
I would think it kind of sets your mood too.
It does.
It's like you're crossing over into a tranquil place.
Exactly.
Hey, that's a nurturing, great environment. That's great. Now, what is your favorite spot in your garden?
Actually, right over here, this rock, I love sitting there watching the water features and just looking over the trees. That's one of my most favorite spot.
What's your favorite time of day to be out here?
Definitely in the mornings. I'm a morning person. I love when the sun comes up. Everything is new. The dew is still on the ground. It's just a perfect time for me. Plus, it's cool.
Yeah, I can imagine. It seems like it would be a great place to come and have your morning walks and talks with Jesus, or your morning meditation time, if you're into that, or
I spend a
devotional
lot of time with the Lord working with my trees. Yes.
Now, the water features, did you build those yourself?
I did. The one back here behind me is kind of static, hard, traditional, and then I tried to balance it with a Japanese feature that's over here on this end. It sort of developed out of necessity. It's called a shishi odoshi, which in Japan or Japanese means deer scarer. So it supposedly, by making the noise hitting on the rock, keeps the deer away.
Keeps them away, yeah.
Plus,
and
it
it's
just
very
looks good.
Yeah. Okay, so we've mentioned YouTube, and you know this is going on YouTube. Who is your favorite YouTubers that you could suggest that we watch if we want to get into bonsai gardening?
I follow a guy in Canada named Nigel Saunders. The Bonsai Zone is the name of his channel. There's a couple of people in the United States that I follow, Isaen His name is Beyond Your Home. Just remember, ECN is the name of his channel. But he's a relatively new and upcoming professional bonsai artist that is really, really good. He's spent a lot of time in Japan learning like 9 years before they would actually grant him the title of bonsai artist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's very,
Wow.
very
Yeah.
big deal.
Oh, I'll put links in the description box below for all of these that you're mentioning.
And then there is another one on the West Coast in Oregon. It's Marai, Bonsai Marai, and then there's a couple others that I follow in England and Europe.
Okay. Now, all right, so where do you get all your trees from?
When I first started, my first tree, which I can show you in a little bit, came from Walmart. It was one of the weeping fig or ficus trees with the big S curve in it, and it sort of developed from there. I don't purchase a lot of my trees. I purchased maybe 3 trees. I go out in the woods and dig them up. That is called Yamadori. I dig them up, plant them. I get them from cuttings. Several of them that I have rooted from cuttings. And I have one wisteria that I did an air layer. And that is where you take the tree in the trunk, or in the trunk of the tree, and you carve an area around it. Carve the bark off, and you go down to a specific layer, tissue layer, the cambium layer, and you put moss around it and a plastic bag around that, and it roots.
Oh my goodness.
If you do it right.
Right.
Roots come out, and then once the roots come out, you can cut it off, plant that, and then you've got another tree.
I can tell you've put a lot of time and effort into cultivating this, but it is something that anyone can approach and try.
Absolutely, they can.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And they can go as deep into it or as shallow as they want to.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
For those that would like to get into the hobby, I would suggest 2 or 3 things. One, don't buy or get just one tree.
Okay.
Because you're going to be excited, you're going to want to do a lot of different things, and if you do it all to that one tree, you're going to kill it. Get lots of trees, as many as you can stand, and that way you can work a little bit on one tree, work a little bit on another tree, and this, that, and the other, and then that will help disperse your excitement.
I just want to say, we are on beautiful Lake Martin, and so you will hear a lot of life and activity. This is a wonderful lake. People are always out enjoying it, and this is the middle of July, so we should expect people to be enjoying it. And that reminds me of having a lot of, in crochet we call it whips, works in progress, so have a lot of, what you said just made a light bulb went off. I was like, why do it? Because you don't want to pour all your energy into one project, and then, so if you have a lot of them, you kind of spread that out. That is great advice for crochet and for probably lots of different hobbies. So.
And if one tree doesn't make it, if you kill one or it dies, don't get discouraged. Again, another reason to have multiple trees.
Now, are you part of a bonsai community? Is there a Facebook group? Is there a place where people can go to get more information?
There is. There are actually local, state, and national bonsai associations that you can join. Again, depending on how deeply you want to go into the hobby. The nearest one from here is Birmingham. There's a local bonsai society there, group there. You can, I have noticed there are some on Facebook, some groups. I don't particularly care to do that. I'm more of a loner. And so.
Now, is there particular tools for like the pruning and things like that you have to have?
Yes and no. There are some that help, but you don't have to have them. And once you do start getting into the tools and things, You can buy what tools you need as you need them. Um, and each type of tool you purchase, like anything else, there's different levels of quality. You know, you can spend $10 on a pair of scissors, or you can spend $200 on a pair of scissors.
Right.
There's different types of scissors, root rakes, root combs, pruning shears, things like that. But I have basically a basic set,
Right.
and that's all I need for now.
So which tree would you say, or types of trees, are the easiest to grow?
The easiest to grow for me, junipers are easy. All of these pretty much, except for the pines. Pines are a little finicky. You really have to know what you're doing with pines. What you need to do, depending on where your viewers are, if they're local, I always say try to accumulate things that grow in your area. I do have a few tropical trees, and where we're located is can support that. But if you were up in New York or, you know, Wisconsin, these tropical trees, you would have to really go out of your way to make those thrive and do well. But there's bonsai enthusiasts up there as well, so
Right.
you tend to want to grow what grows well in your geographical location.
I'm so glad you shared this with us today. Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
coming.
much
Yes.
for taking us around and showing us all.
Glad to have you.